Hey, nappy friend. Welcome back to our nappy little club. You're home now, and we saved your spot. Tonight, we are going to step into the soft, sensible sandals of a woman whose life was anything but boring, though it was certainly filled with a unique kind of quiet dread. We're journeying back to ancient Rome to explore a life of immense power, suffocating rules, and the constant flickering pressure of a single sacred flame. Imagine the warm Roman sun on your arms, the distant murmur of the forum, the scent of olive oil and baked bread in the air. Now imagine trading all of that for a life of pristine white robes, solemn vows, and the knowledge that one mistake could literally bring an empire to its knees. You probably wouldn't survive a day as a Vestal Virgin, but here, in our cozy corner, you're perfectly safe and blissfully relaxed. So before your eyelids get too heavy, if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, tap that like button and subscribe to keep our sleepy adventures coming. After all, nobody wants to miss out on history, right? Go ahead and let us know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is in your part of the world. It's always a quiet joy to see how far our little club reaches. So, dim your lights, tune into the soft, comforting fan hum, and ease gently into tonight's journey, because you're now officially in Nappy community. You're not just listening, you're an essential part of our Nappy family, where every night is soothing, special, and yours. You're safe, valued, and always welcome. The day your life ends and truly begins is drenched in a soft, hazy sunlight that filters through the high windows of your father's villa. You are 10 years old. Your name is Lashinia. You're in the Jews. Atrium, tracing the mosaic patterns of a fierce, tentacled sea creature with your toe when the visitors arrive. You know one of them. Every Roman knows him. The Pontifex Maximus, the high priest of the city, stands in the doorway like a living statue, his presence sucking all the air from the room. Your father, a man you've only ever seen as a titan of booming laughter and confident strides, seems to shrink. Your mother's hand flies to her mouth, a silent, fluttering bird. You are called forward. The Pontifex Maximus looks down at you, his eyes not unkind, but heavy with a purpose that you can't yet comprehend. He says a phrase, ancient and formal, that you only half understand. Ameda te capio. Beloved, I take you. It's a formula, a sacred claim. With those 4 words, you cease to be your parents' daughter. You now belong to Vesta, the goddess of the hearth, home, and family. You belong to Rome. Your hand, small and sticky with the honey cake you were eating moments before, is placed in his. It feels like being claimed by a gentle, inescapable glacier. This is how it begins. The selection of a Vestal is one of the highest honors a Roman family can receive. At least, that's what your father tells everyone later, his chest puffed with pride. But you see the look in your mother's eyes, a flicker of something that isn't pride. Historians still debate whether families like yours eagerly volunteered their daughters for the prestige, or if the Pontifex's request was an honor that was simply impossible to refuse. Looking at your father's suddenly very agreeable face, you have your suspicions. To be chosen, you had to be perfect. Between the ages of 6 and 10, born of 2 living patrician parents, united in the old, formal rite of confarreatio. And, most unnervingly, you had to be free of any physical blemish or imperfection. You remember being quietly inspected, a priest running a cool, methodical hand over your arms and legs, checking your teeth, ensuring your speech was clear. It felt less like a holy selection and more like a farmer inspecting a prize lamb. A perfect vessel for a perfect duty. You are led away from your home, from the colorful mosaics and the scent of your mother's perfume. Your destination is the Atrium Vestae, the House of the Vestals, a grand and imposing building nestled right beside the Forum. It's to be your home, your school, and your gilded prison for the next 30 years. 30 years. It's a number so vast, it means nothing to you. You've only been alive for 1/3 of that time. The senior Vestals greet you with a serene, unnerving calm. Their white robes, the stola, are immaculate. Their hair is bound in a complex style of 6 pads, the semicrines that you will soon learn to create yourself. It's the hairstyle of a Roman bride, a curious irony as you are now married to the state, forever a virgin. Your first 10 years, they explain, are as a novice, a student. You must learn the rites, the sacred prayers, and the complex calendar of religious obligations. The prayers are in a form of Latin so ancient that even the priests sometimes argue over the meaning of the words. It's like being asked to memorize a beautiful song in a language no one living truly speaks. You must learn how to meticulously prepare the mola salsa, a sacred mixture of salt and spelt flour from the first ears of spring grain, which will be sprinkled on every public sacrifice in Rome. The prosperity of the harvest, the success of the legions, the very health of the empire. It all seems to trace back, somehow, to the things you will do in this building. And then there is the fire, the Ignis Vesta. It burns in the center of the circular temple of Vesta, a small, elegant building just steps from your new home. It is not a grand, roaring bonfire. It is a modest, quiet flame housed in a brazier on an altar. This flame, you are told, is the soul of Rome. It is the hearth of the entire city. As long as it burns, Rome is safe. If it goes out, it is an omen of unimaginable disaster. Tending it is your ultimate responsibility. It can never be extinguished. Not for a moment. Not in 30 years. The thought is so enormous, it makes your stomach feel like it's full of cold stones. You, a 10-year-old girl, who still sometimes trips over her own feet, are now responsible for the spiritual well-being of 1 million people. It's a bit like being handed your family's most precious heirloom, except the heirloom is a live volcano, and the family is the entire known world. No pressure at all. The days bleed into one another, each marked by the same quiet, unwavering rhythm. Your life as Liciniia, the 10-year-old girl, fades like a watercolor painting left in the sun. You are now Liciniia, a novice, and your world has shrunk to the size of the Atrium Vestae and the small round temple beside it. Your new home is a place of profound and sometimes unsettling contrasts. The 3-story building is built around a long rectangular courtyard, a serene space with 2 pools of pure water that reflect the endless blue sky. Statues of former Chief Vestals, the Vestals Maximae, line the colonnades, their marble eyes watching you with a silent, eternal judgment. It's comforting and terrifying all at once. They are your predecessors, your role models, and a constant reminder of the legacy you must uphold. Your routine is the anchor of your existence. You wake long before the first rays of sun touch the Palatine Hill. The air is cool and still, carrying the scent of cold stone and the faint, sweet smell of the olive oil burning in the temple's lamps. Your first task is always a ritual purification, washing your hands and face with water drawn from a sacred spring. This water, you are taught, is special. It must be carried in a vessel called a futo, which has a small foot that prevents it from being set down. The moment it is drawn, it cannot touch the ground again until it is used for its sacred purpose. It's a lesson in mindfulness before you're even fully awake. One clumsy moment, one slip of the hand, and the entire journey back to the temple must be repeated. It teaches you precision. It teaches you that every single action, no matter how small, has consequence. As you grow from a novice into a full-fledged Vestal, you begin to understand the strange and unparalleled position you occupy in Roman society. One day, a senior Vestal takes you aside to explain your legal status. When the Pontifex Maximus spoke the words, "Amata, to Capio. He didn't just transfer you from your family to the goddess. He fundamentally altered your legal reality. You are now sui iris, under your own legal authority. You are emancipated from your father's rule, the all-encompassing patriar potestas that governs every other woman in Rome. You can own property. You can inherit wealth. You can write a will. And most remarkably, you can testify in a court of law without the oversight of a male guardian. This knowledge settles upon you slowly. You see noble matrons, dripping with jewels and trailed by servants, who cannot legally sign a contract for the sale of a small olive grove without their husband's consent. They are, in the eyes of the law, perpetual children. But you, in your simple white stola, have the legal autonomy of a Roman man. It's a staggering privilege, a quiet superpower hidden in plain sight. It's a bit ironic, really. To gain this freedom, you had to surrender your freedom entirely, locking yourself away for 3 decades. You could, in theory, engage in a complex shipping venture, yet you cannot walk to the market to buy a peach. This unique status of incorruptibility brings with it another, deeply secret responsibility. The Temple of Vesta is not just a place of worship. It's the most secure vault in Rome. Its sanctity is absolute. And so, the city's most powerful men entrust their most sensitive documents to your keeping. One afternoon, a grim-faced senator, a man whose speeches can sway the fate of legions, arrives with a sealed scroll. It is his last will and testament. He hands it not to a magistrate or a banker, but to the Vestalis Maxima, who then entrusts it to a locked niche deep within the temple complex. You realize that the wills of emperors, the final wishes of consuls, and even secret state treaties are housed here, protected not by guards and locks, but by the sheer power of your sacred office. You and your 5 sister Vestals are the silent keepers of Rome's most explosive secrets. With this status comes wealth. The state provides a generous stipend, and your family provided a handsome dowry upon your entry. You live a life of comfort that borders on luxury. You eat well, your chambers are spacious, and servants see to your needs. Yet you notice a strange detachment to this wealth. The fine linen of your bedding, the carefully prepared meals, they don't feel entirely yours. Academics will one day puzzle over this, debating whether the immense wealth of the Vestals was personal property or if it was held in a kind of sacred trust for the goddess. As you eat a fig sweeter than any you remember from your childhood, you feel the truth of that debate. This comfort is a condition of your service. It belongs to the office you hold, not to you, Licinia. It's a tool, a resource to ensure your duties are performed without distraction or want. It is a beautiful, comfortable, gilded cage, and the 30-year lease is non-negotiable. And always, in the back of your mind, is the quiet hum of the central, unspoken rule that holds this entire world together. All of this power, all this privilege, rests on a single fragile vow. For all the complex rituals, the ancient prayers, and the weight of state secrets, your life is governed by one deceptively simple principle. You must remain pure. Your vow of chastity, taken at the tender age of 10, is the bedrock of your existence. It is not, you learn, a mere moral guideline. It is the very source of your power and Rome's protection. Your physical purity is believed to be mystically intertwined with the city's spiritual health. As long as you and your 5 sisters remain untouched, a sacred barrier is maintained, ensuring the Pax Diorum, the peace between the gods and mortals. The flame in the temple is the physical manifestation of this covenant, and your body is its living vessel. This concept is taught to you not through threats, but through constant, gentle reinforcement, until it becomes as natural and essential as breathing. Your virginity is not the absence of something. It is a potent, active force, a shield for an entire empire. But what if that shield were to crack? The breaking of this vow is a crime so profound it doesn't have a common name. It is called incestum not. Incest as we know it, but a religious pollution, an act of sacrilege that contaminates the very soil of Rome. If a Vestal is believed to have broken her vow, the blame for any concurrent disaster, a lost battle, a failed harvest, a plague sweeping through the Subura is laid squarely at her feet. She becomes a lightning rod for the city's fear and anger. It is a terrifyingly effective system. A military defeat is no longer a general's tactical error. It is the gods' displeasure caused by a single woman's transgression. The punishment for incestum is as unique as it is horrifying, a piece of grim, legalistic theater. A Vestal's person is sacrosanct. Her body cannot be bound or harmed by the hand of man. To spill her blood would be another sacrilege upon the first. So the Romans, with their particular genius for cruel and unusual solutions, devised a way to execute you without technically killing you. You are to be buried alive. The logic is a masterpiece of dark theological maneuvering. You are not being executed by the state. You are simply being returned to the earth, a polluted vessel given, back to the goddess, who will then decide your fate in the silent darkness. It's a loophole in divine law, and you are the one who must slip through it into oblivion. On the day of the sentence, a funereal quiet descends upon the city. Shops are shuttered. The normally chaotic streets fall silent. You, the condemned, would be stripped of your vestal attire. Your white stola, the symbol of your purity, is taken away. You are no longer Licinia, keeper of the flame. You are a non-person, a ghost walking to her own grave. You would be placed in a covered litter, like a corpse, and carried through the city. The curtains are drawn tight, for your very gaze is now thought to pollute the daylight. You can only hear the muffled sounds of the silent, weeping crowds that line the streets. Their pity and their fear, a palpable presence on the other side of the thin fabric. Your destination is a place just inside the city walls called the Campus Celeragus, the polluted field. Here, a small subterranean chamber has been dug, a tiny room that will be your entire world. As for the man accused of being your lover, his fate is far less ritualized. While you are being processed with solemn religious rites, he would be taken to the Forum Boreum, or the Comitium, and publicly flogged to death. A brutal, bloody, and very straightforward end. A stark contrast that says everything about the difference between profaning a sacred office and merely being a man who succumbed to temptation. Inside your final, earthen room, your executioners, or rather your movers, would leave you a few symbolic provisions: a single loaf of bread, a small flask of water, a little milk and oil, and a lamp with enough fuel for a few hours. It is a chilling gesture. It is the state absolving itself of the direct guilt of starving you. You are not left to die. You are left with the means to live, however briefly. The entrance is then sealed, and earth is piled on top until the chamber vanishes, leaving no trace on the surface. You are left alone in the cold, absolute dark, with only the sound of your own breathing and the last, flickering light of a lamp that is counting down the final moments of your existence. You begin to understand that this punishment is not about pain. It is about erasure. As you grow older within the Atrium Vesta, you start to see the shadows behind these stories. You hear the whispers. An accusation of incestum against a Vestal named Appia coincided with a military disaster. Another, against Urbina, came when her family fell out of favor with the emperor. Historians will forever debate how many of these trials were genuine and how many were politically motivated, a way for powerful men to eliminate their rivals by attacking the honor of their daughters, sisters, or cousins. You realize that your life of privilege and power is balanced on a knife's edge, and that knife is not always wielded by the hands of justice, but by the subtle, grasping fingers of political ambition. Your sacred purity could become a weapon used against you. You have been a keeper of the flame for 12 years. The rhythms of the Atrium Vesta are as much a part of you as your own heartbeat. The pre-dawn chill, the weight of the water vessel, the soft hiss of the eternal fire, these are no longer chores but a form of silent, moving prayer. You are Licinia, a respected Vestal in her prime. You have taught novices the ancient words you once struggled to memorize, and your hands prepare the mola salsa with an unconscious, practiced grace. Your life is one of serene, predictable purpose. And then, the rhythm breaks. It doesn't happen. With a sudden crash, but with a creeping dissonance, a note played just slightly out of key. It begins with a look. A senator, whose will is stored somewhere in the temple's vaults, brings his young wife to see the sacred flame. As you perform the rite of introduction, you notice his gaze lingers on you a moment too long. His expression not of reverence, but of a strange, morbid curiosity. A few days later, you walk into a conversation between two junior priestesses in the courtyard. They fall silent the moment they see you, their eyes wide, a blush creeping up one's neck. The silence they leave behind is heavier and more eloquent than any words they might have spoken. The air in the atrium, once a comfortable blanket of shared duty, now feels thin and sharp. The serene faces of the marble statues of your predecessors seem to follow you, their judgment no longer feeling like ancestral support, but like a gathering of silent accusers. You start to notice things. How one of your sister Vestals, a nervous girl named Unia, can no longer meet your eyes, her gaze always skittering away to a point just over your shoulder. How the servants respond to your requests with a new hurried efficiency, as if they are afraid to be in your presence for too long. You are the same Licinia you were a month ago, but you have become a source of unease, a ghost haunting your own home. Suddenly, your impeccable ritual cleanliness feels less about piety and more about not giving anyone an excuse to find fault. And you hear the word, whispered by a servant gossiping near the kitchens, not knowing you are within earshot. Incestum. The word hangs in the air, a drop of poison, and with it, a name, Lucius Varenus, the son of a powerful senator whose family has long been a political rival to your own. You barely know the man. You recall seeing him at the games, his face part of a sea of indistinguishable young nobles. You may have exchanged a formal nod once at a public triumph. In your mind, the connection is non-existent. But in the dark ecosystem of Roman rumor, a glance is enough to seed a story. A shared path in the forum becomes a secret rendezvous. Your name and his are being spoken together in the wine shops and bathhouses, a story taking on a life of its own. This is how it works, you realize. An accusation doesn't always begin with evidence. It can be born from a delator, a professional informer, who sees a way to curry favor with a powerful family by tarnishing another. It's a crime in extraordinarium, an extraordinary charge that can be conjured from whispers and innuendo. The stories you once heard about other condemned Vestals now rush back to you, no longer abstract historical tales, but manuals of terror. You think of the histories written by men like Tacitus, who chronicled the scandals of the powerful with a sharp, moralizing pen. You begin to wonder how much of what he wrote was fact, and how much was simply the most scandalous version of events, retold to make a political point. Was Vestal Appia really guilty, or was her condemnation simply more convenient for the historical narrative? The line between your life and a cautionary tale feels terrifyingly thin. The fear is a physical presence now. It lives in the pit of your stomach, a cold, heavy stone. When you close your eyes at night, you no longer dream of your childhood home. You see a small, dark space. You can smell the damp earth, feel the oppressive weight of the soil above you. The details of the punishment, once a subject of hushed academic horror, are now a vibrant, personal threat. A loaf of bread, The flask of water, the lamp, they are no longer symbolic props in a story. They are the last things you might ever see. That thought makes it hard to breathe. Your carefully constructed world of privilege, your legal autonomy, your comfort, your sacred purpose feels like a house of cards, and a phantom wind is beginning to blow. You find yourself obsessing over tiny, meaningless details of your past. Was your smile at the Pontifex last month piously serene or suspiciously cheerful? It's a maddening, paranoid calculus. The whispers finally grow into a sound you can no longer ignore. The Vestalis Maxima, a woman whose face is a mask of serene duty, summons you to her private chambers. The air is thick with the scent of old papyrus and fragrant olive oil. She does not ask you to sit. She looks at you, and for the first time, you see not a superior, but a weary executioner of protocol. Licinia, she says, her voice as soft and unforgiving as falling snow. The whispers have reached the ears of the Pontifex Maximus. He wishes to speak with you. She doesn't have to say anything else. The machine has been activated. The informal rumors have now crystallized into a formal inquiry. Your descent has begun. The walk from the Atrium Vestae to the Regia, the official residence of the Pontifex Maximus, is the longest journey of your life. It is only a few dozen paces across the forum, but each step is a universe of dread. You are flanked by 2 junior priests, their presence not for protection, but to ensure you do not flee. You don't wear the ceremonial white robes of a public appearance, but a simple, unadorned stola. You feel naked, stripped of the inviolable sanctity that has been your shield for more than a decade. The usual cacophony of the forum seems to die down as you pass. Faces turn. You are a spectacle. You are the whisper from Section 4 made flesh. A walking, breathing scandal. The eyes of the crowd are a physical weight, a mixture of pity, morbid fascination, and fear. They look at you as if you are already a ghost. The trial is not held in a grand open basilica. It is a more intimate, and therefore more terrifying affair. You are led into a chamber within the Regia, a room you have never seen before. It is austere and imposing. The walls are dark, absorbing the light from the high, narrow windows. Seated in a solemn semicircle are the members of the College of Pontiffs, the highest religious authorities in Rome. They are old men, their faces etched with the gravity of their office, their expressions unreadable. At their center, on a raised curule chair, sits the Pontifex Maximus. It is the same man who took your hand as a child, his face now a mask of cold, impartial judgment. The kind, paternal eyes you remember from that day have been replaced by the hard, discerning gaze of a judge. He is no longer your symbolic father. He is your potential executioner. A chilling fact chills you to the bone. Before the trial began, the most sacred rite would have been performed. The eternal flame and the other holy objects you have guarded with your life would have been carefully and ceremoniously removed from the Temple of Vesta and transported here to the care of the Pontifex Maximus. This is a detail few outside. The priesthood know. It is done to protect the sacred items from the potential pollution of your guilt. The goddess herself, they believe, has temporarily abandoned her home because of you. The temple stands empty and cold. Your heart, the symbolic heart of Rome, has stopped beating, pending the outcome of this hearing. It is a pronouncement of guilt before a single word has been spoken against you. The proceedings begin. There is no jury of your peers. There are only these priests. Your accuser, a weaselly man acting as the delator on behalf of the Varenus family's rivals, steps forward. He does not present evidence as you understand it. He presents a narrative, a poisonous tapestry woven from half-truths and malicious inventions. He speaks with a practiced, theatrical piety that makes your stomach turn. A witness saw the noble, Vestal Licinia, near the forum entrance, where the young Lucius Varenus was conversing with his friends. He declares, his voice ringing with false sincerity. Another servant can attest that Licinia seemed distracted and melancholic for days after the festival of Bonadi. He points a dramatic finger at you. Is this the demeanor of a pure vessel of Vesta, or of a heart burdened by a guilty secret? It is here that the academic debate of future historians becomes your terrifying reality. What constitutes proof in a trial like this? Is hard evidence required, or is a compelling story bolstered by public anxiety and political convenience? Enough? You see the heads of some pontiffs nodding slowly, not at the facts, but at the performance. They are not weighing truth. They are assessing the political temperature. The evidence is laughable, a shared public space, a momentary mood, but in the charged atmosphere, it takes on a sinister weight. Then, it is your turn to speak. The Pontifex Maximus gestures to you, his expression unreadable. Licinia, you may answer the charge. The silence in the room is absolute. All eyes are on you. Your voice, so accustomed to the soft chants and ancient prayers, feels small and fragile in this hostile space. You stand as tall as you can, your hands clasped in front of you to stop them from shaking. You speak the simple, unadorned truth. You deny the charge. You explain that you have never spoken a private word to Lucius Varenus in your life, that your only interactions have been in the full public view of Roman ceremony. You look each pontiff in the eye, trying to convey the sincerity that feels, like a desperate fire in your chest. I have honored my vow, you say, your voice gaining a sliver of strength. I have kept the faith. I am innocent. Your words hang in the silent air. Do they hear you? Or do they only hear the political calculations whispering in their ears? Do they see a dedicated servant of the goddess? Or do they see a convenient scapegoat for the recent drought and the unsettling news of a skirmish lost on the northern frontier? You have presented the truth, but your accuser has presented a more satisfying story. And in Rome, a satisfying story is often more powerful than the truth. The Pontifex Maximus listens, his face an impenetrable mask of stone. When you finish, he holds up a hand, signaling the end of testimony. He does not ask questions. He does not call for rebuttal. He simply turns to the College of Pontiffs. You have heard the accusation. You have heard the defense. Deliver it. The priests begin to murmur amongst themselves, their voices a low, ominous hum, like a hive of hornets deciding your fate. You are left standing alone in the center of the room, the focal point of all their power and all their judgment, caught in an eternity of silence, waiting for the verdict that will either return you to the fire or condemn you to the earth. The murmuring of the pontiffs ceases. A profound, bottomless silence fills the chamber. The Pontifex Maximus rises from his chair, his face a landscape of grim duty. He does not look at you. He looks at a point in the space just above your head, as if you are already no longer part of this world. He speaks one word, a word that falls into the silence with the weight of a mountain. Damnator, you are condemned. The word doesn't register as a sound. It's a physical force, a wave of cold that washes over you, extinguishing the last embers of hope. It's over. The story your accusers wrote has been accepted as truth. What happens next feels like a slow, waking dream. You are approached not with violence, but with a cold, ritualistic finality. A priest, his face carefully neutral, unties the sacred woolen fillet, the infula, from your hair. The six-padded hairstyle you have worn every day since you were a girl, the mark of a Vestal, is carefully undone. Your hair, unshorn for years, cascades down your back. With these simple gestures, you are unmade. You are no longer Licinia the Vestal. Your legal autonomy, your privileges, your sacred immunity, they all evaporate into the stale air of this chamber. You are now just Licinia, a condemned woman, a vessel deemed polluted, ready to be discarded. You are led out into the forum, not to the Atrium Vesta, your home, but to the waiting litter. It is a strange, cramped box, and as the leather curtains are drawn, you are plunged into a dim, swaying darkness. This is the procession you have heard stories about. You are now the centerpiece of Rome's solemn, silent parade of shame. You cannot see the crowds, but you can feel them. You feel their silence, a heavy, pressing thing that is far louder than any jeer or cry. You can hear the slow, rhythmic tramp of the feet of your bearers, the creak of the leather straps. The city you helped protect, whose spiritual heart you guarded, is now ushering you to your grave. The journey ends with a soft thud as the litter is set down. The curtain is pulled back, and the daylight is a physical blow, painfully bright after. The gloom. You are at the Colline Gate, near a place you've only ever heard of in fearful whispers. The Campus Celeratus, the polluted field. It is a bleak, unremarkable patch of ground. A short ladder descends into a dark opening in the earth. This is it, the chamber, your final home. The priests stand around the opening, their faces impassive. They are merely functionaries in this divine transaction. As you stand at the edge of the abyss, the Pontifex Maximus steps forward. He raises his hands to the sky, not in prayer for you, but in prayer for Rome. He speaks a formal, ancient prayer, his voice clear and strong in the unnerving quiet. He is commending you to the gods of the underworld, formally releasing you from the world of the living and handing you over. You realize the chilling purpose of this prayer. It is the state's final act of disavowal, a ritualistic washing of hands. He is not condemning you to death. He is merely delivering you to your new masters. With this prayer, Rome is absolved. The city can move on, its spiritual balance notionally restored. You are gestured toward the ladder. There is no resistance in you. Your body moves with a strange, detached obedience. You descend the rungs into the cool, earthy darkness. The chamber is small, just as the stories described. It is larger than a coffin, but smaller than any room you have ever known. The air is cold and smells of damp soil and stone. In one corner, placed with neat precision, are the final, cruel mercies. A small, rough loaf of bread, a clay pitcher of water, a flask of oil, and a single lamp, its flame already lit and casting flickering, dancing shadows on the earthen walls. You stare at these items, and the great academic debate about their meaning becomes a sudden personal question. Is this a final act of piety, a symbolic meal for your journey into the afterlife? Or is it a carefully calculated legal fiction, a way to ensure that your death is not by starvation at the hands of the state, prolonging your life just long enough for the official record to be clean? The cold truth settles upon you. It doesn't matter. The result is the same. The square of light above you, your last connection to the sky and the sun, is suddenly blocked by a shadow. The ladder is being pulled up. You hear a scraping sound, followed by a heavy, resonant thud as a stone slab is dragged into place over the opening. A sliver of light remains, then vanishes. You are in absolute blackness, save for the small, steady flame of the lamp. Then you hear another sound, a soft, percussive shuffling from above. It's the sound of shovels, the sound of earth being piled onto the stone. They are burying you. The sound grows more distant, more muffled, until it fades into a complete and total silence, a silence deeper than any you have ever known. And you are left alone in the dark, with the quiet flame, a terrible mockery of the sacred fire you tended for so long. But before the final silence of the earth, there was the silence of the temple. Before your name was a whisper of scandal, it was a key, granting you access to the heart of Rome's oldest and most profound mysteries. This is the knowledge you held. This is what you were chosen to protect. This is why your purity was paramount. Beyond the ever-burning flame, and the meticulous preparation of the mola salsa, your most sacred duty lay within a space no other Roman, save the Pontifex Maximus, was ever permitted to enter, the Penis Vesta. The Penis Vesta is not a grand hall. It is a small, plain, windowless storeroom at the back of the temple, its entrance sealed by a heavy door and covered by a simple tapestry. To step across its threshold is to step out of Rome and into a place of pure, undiluted myth. The air inside is still and cool, thick with the scent of ancient clay, dry wood, and something else. Something that feels like time itself. The only light is the small lamp you carry, its glow seeming to be swallowed by the deep shadows. Here, there are no golden statues or ornate decorations. There are only simple clay jars, sealed with lead, and ancient wooden chests bound in bronze. They are unassuming, even plain. But you know that within them lie the Pignora Imperii, the 7 sacred pledges of Roman dominion. As a novice, you were taught the legends. You learned that these were not just Roman relics. Some of them, the most sacred of all, were believed to have been brought to Italy by the hero Aeneas himself, rescued from the smoking ruins of Troy. In this small, dark room, you are the final link in a chain that stretches back to the age of heroes. You are guarding the very soul of Troy, transplanted and reborn as Rome. The thought is so immense, so heavy, that it sometimes feels hard to breathe. The fate of one city, lost to fire and war, is now the guarantee of another's eternal glory. And you, a woman in a white robe, are its silent, watchful guardian. And yet, here lies the most profound secret of all. Even you do not know precisely what is in every container. This is a topic future historians will debate endlessly, poring over vague references from ancient poets and conflicting accounts from chroniclers. What truly were the Pignora Imperii? You know the list of names, the ancilia, or sacred shields. That fell from the sky, the ashes of Orestes, the scepter of Priam. But which is in which chest? Are they literal objects? Or are they something else entirely? The Vestalis Maxima, when she passed the knowledge to you, spoke in riddles and ceremonial. Language. You are taught not to open the containers, not to look upon the objects, but to guard their sanctity. Your duty is to the mystery itself. There's a quiet, strange irony to it. For all you know, the large clay amphora in the corner, the one said, to hold the future of the empire could contain nothing but the dust of 700 years. But your duty is to believe. Your role is to treat that jar as if it radiates a divine power that holds the cosmos in balance. And so you do. You check the seals. You ensure the air remains dry. You perform the quiet, purifying rituals in this. Space, your soft chance absorbed by the ancient walls. You are the guardian of a faith so deep it does not require proof. It only requires perfect, unwavering service. This is why your vow of chastity was not merely a personal promise. It was the magical seal upon this room. Your purity was the spiritual wall that kept these forces contained and protected. A Vestal's incestum, her ritual impurity, was not just a personal failing. It was a cosmic crisis. It was a crack in the divine shield, a flaw in the vessel containing Rome's destiny. If you were impure, then the Penis Vesta itself was considered violated. The protective magic of the Pignora could falter, or worse, turn against the city they were meant to. Safeguard. This is the weight you carried every day. It wasn't just about keeping a flame lit. It was about containing forces that predated Rome, forces that could unmake it in an instant. You would spend long nights on duty, sitting in the main chamber. Of the temple, the gentle warmth of the eternal fire on your face. And you would think of that small, dark room behind you. You think of the unseen, unknown objects resting in the quiet dark. You are their keeper. You are their voice in the world of the living, though you speak of them to no one. You are the silent, living lock on Rome's most sacred vault, a repository of myth and magic, so potent that the city's survival is wagered upon it every single day. The responsibility is immense, a universe of secrets resting on the shoulders of 6 silent women in white. Of all the secrets sleeping in the dark of the penis Vesta, one is heavier, colder, and more potent than all the others combined. It is the secret that underpins the rest, the keystone in the arch of Roman dominion. You know it not by sight, but by name, by reputation, and by the sheer, crushing weight of its significance. It is the Palladium. The story is drilled into you from your first days as a novice, a tale of myth that is treated with the gravity of historical fact. Long ago, in the magnificent city of Troy, there stood a sacred statue of Pallas Athena, the armed goddess of wisdom. It was said to have fallen from the heavens, a direct gift from the gods. As long as this idol, the Palladium, remained within Troy's walls, the city was impregnable. It could not fall. The wily Greek heroes Odysseus and Diomedes knew this. In a daring raid, they stole the statue, and only then could the Trojan horse breach the gates. The city's divine luck was broken, but the Roman version of the tale, the one you are sworn to believe, has a crucial addendum. You are taught that the stolen statue was a decoy, or that the true Palladium was recovered by the hero Aeneas and carried, along with his father and the other sacred objects, from the ashes of his homeland. He brought it to Italy, a seed of a new Troy, a new divinely protected city, which would one day become Rome. The object hidden somewhere in the sanctum you guard is therefore the ultimate guarantee. It is Troy's past and Rome's future, an object that represents invincibility. As long as it remains safe and secret, Rome cannot fall. It is a simple, terrifying, and absolute equation. The secrecy surrounding it is unlike any other. It is Rome's most famous secret, a paradox you live with every day. Every educated Roman knows the legend of the Palladium, but only you and your 5 sister Vestals are entrusted with its reality. And even that reality is shrouded in layers of internal mystery. To protect the true Palladium from the fate of its Trojan predecessor, the priests of old devised a clever system. There is not one statue. Somewhere in the inner sanctum, or perhaps hidden in plain sight among other temple treasures, are several identical objects, or several identically sealed chests. Only the Vestalis Maxima is meant to know which is the genuine article. It's a masterful piece of security. No one can steal a secret if the guardians themselves aren't entirely sure of its location. It's a bit like being told to guard a single specific grain of sand on a vast beach. The sheer impossibility is the point. This uncertainty leaves its form to your imagination, a question that historians of the future will endlessly debate. What does it actually look like? The legends are frustratingly vague. When you close your eyes and try to picture it, your mind conjures conflicting images. Sometimes you imagine a zonon, a primitive, ancient idol carved from a single piece of dark, gnarled wood, its features worn smooth by centuries of reverence, radiating a raw, primal power. Other times, you picture a more recognizable form, a small, exquisitely carved Hellenistic statue of Athena, armed with a tiny spear and shield, a masterpiece of divine art. The fact that you do not know, that no one living has likely seen it, only enhances its power. You are not just guarding an object. You are guarding a potent and terrifying idea, a blank space onto which Rome projects its deepest fears and its greatest ambitions. The psychological weight of being its keeper is immense. All the other Pignora Imperi are vital, but the Palladium is the heart. If an enemy of Rome, or even just a thief, were to ever discover the truth, you know what your duty would be. You would have to be prepared to die to protect it, to stand between the profaning hand and the sacred wood or stone. Your life is the final lock on its vault. This knowledge, changes the way you move through the world. It's a constant low, in the back of your mind during every ritual, every prayer, every waking moment. And it gives a new, terrifying dimension to your vow of purity. Your chastity is not just a general offering to Vesta. It is the specific magical shield that makes the Palladium's hiding place mystically undetectable. Your incestum would be a beacon in the spiritual darkness, a signpost pointing directly to Rome's greatest vulnerability. The accusation against you, Licinia, was therefore not just about your personal honor. In the minds of the pontiffs, it was about the potential exposure of the Palladium. They were not just condemning a woman. They were trying to cauterize a wound in the spiritual fabric of the empire, a wound that could lead to the theft of its very soul. You realize with a cold certainty that your trial was, in its own way, a ritual to protect this single, unseen, unknown object. You were sacrificed not to the gods, but to the fear of what losing this statue would mean. The Palladium may be the heaviest secret, but it is not the only one. The weight you carry is cumulative, a collection of duties and untold stories layered one upon the other until the burden becomes a part of you, as inseparable as your own. Shadow. It is the constant, silent weight of Rome's soul on your shoulders. You feel it most in the deep quiet of the night, when the city outside is asleep and the only sound is the soft, whispering hiss of the sacred flame. You think of the other Pignora Imperi. You think of the Ancilia, the 12 sacred shields of the god Mars. The legend, which you know by heart, tells of how King Numa Pompilius was gifted one shield that fell from the heavens, a promise from Mars himself of Rome's military supremacy. Fearing it would be stolen, the clever king had 11 perfect copies forged. The 12 shields are identical, and the secret of which is the original is lost even to the Salian priests, who dance with them through the city streets each March. But while the Salii have custody of them, you know their ultimate sanctity is tied to Vesta. They are part of the city's collection of divine insurance policies, and you are one of its underwriters. It's another secret to keep, another set of indistinguishable copies to worry about. The thought of it is exhausting. That this is the psychological reality that historians of the future will try to understand. Did the Vestals live in a state of serene confidence, buoyed by their sacred role? Or were they consumed by a constant, gnawing anxiety? From where you stand, you know the answer is both, and they shift with the turning of the days. Some mornings, you wake feeling imbued with a divine purpose, a calm certainty flowing through you. You perform your rituals with a focused, meditative grace, feeling the presence of the goddess in the coolness of the water and the warmth of the fire. On these days, you are a conduit of the gods, untouchable and serene. But on other days, the fear is a physical thing. You might stumble slightly while carrying the feudal, and though not a drop of the sacred water is spilled, your heart hammers in your chest. Did a god see? Was that a bad omen? You might miss a single word in a long, archaic prayer, and a cold dread washes over you. This is the operational reality of the Pax Deorum, the peace of the gods. You understand it not as an abstract theological concept, but as a terrifyingly direct contract. If you do your job perfectly, Rome thrives. If you make a mistake, you have personally broken the contract. You have endangered the harvest, weakened the legions, invited a plague. Most Romans worry about the quality of the grain shipment from Egypt. You worry that if you don't grind your own sacred grain just right, there will be no shipment at all. It certainly puts a different perspective on the importance of doing a job well done. This constant pressure for perfection creates an unbridgeable chasm between you and the rest of the world. On the rare occasions you attend public ceremonies, seated, in your place of honor, you might overhear the conversations of noble matrons behind you. They speak of their children, of social rivalries, of the price of Spanish garum. Their concerns are grounded in the tangible, temporary world. You want to turn and tell them that you are worried that an improperly prepared sacrifice might cause the Tiber to flood, but you know they would only stare at you in uncomprehending silence. You are fundamentally isolated, alone with the cosmic. Responsibility that no one else can see or feel. This isolation fosters a unique and complex bond with your 5 sister Vestals. They are the only other people on the planet who understand. A shared glance across the atrium after a difficult ceremony. A silent, steadying hand on your arm when you are weary. These small gestures are a language all their own. You are a sorority of secret keepers. But this shared burden is also a source of immense, unspoken pressure. You rely on each other completely, but you also watch each other with a kind of loving, fearful scrutiny. The strength of the sacred. College is the strength of its weakest member. Each of you is a potential point of failure, a single cracked stone that could bring the entire temple down. Ultimately, the heaviest burden is not the secrets themselves, but the weight of being. A living symbol. When people in the forum see you pass in your ceremonial carriage, they fall silent and bow their heads. But you know they are not bowing to you, Licinia. They are bowing to the idea of Rome's safety. They bow to the eternal flame, to the purity of your office, to the assurance that the gods are still on their side. You are the human face of that assurance. And you are acutely aware, every single day, that if that divine contract were ever perceived to be broken, all that reverence would curdle into terror and rage in an instant. You are loved as a symbol of security. You would be hated as the cause of ruin. It is a terrifying balancing act to be the vessel of a city's soul. From your seat of honor at the Ludi Romani, the great games held in the Circus Maximus, you have a perfect vantage point. Down below is the thrilling chaos of the chariot races, the roar of the crowd, a distant sea of noise. But your gaze often drifts to the stands opposite, to the shaded boxes reserved for the families of senators and nobles. You see them there, the women you might have become. You see your childhood friend, Cornelia, now a respected matron. She is poised and confident, supervising her young children, speaking with authority to her husband. She is the very model of a Roman wife, the mistress of a grand household, a queen in her own domain. And yet, you know a truth about her that she herself rarely has cause to consider. She is not free. Cornelia, like every other married woman in that stadium, lives under the immense, invisible umbrella of Patria Potestas, the sacred and absolute, power of the male head of the family. When she was a girl, that power belonged to her father. Now, married in the traditional way, she lives under the manus, or hand, of her husband. She is a titan in her home, managing dozens of slaves, controlling the household budget, educating her children, and weaving the very fabric of her family's social standing. But in the eyes of the law, her legal identity is subsumed entirely into her husband's. She cannot own the magnificent villa she runs. She cannot sign a will for the jewels she wears. If she were to be wronged, she could not bring a case to court under her own name. Her life is a paradox. Immense domestic responsibility with almost no personal legal authority. You think of another woman, Livia, who entered a newer form of marriage, sine manu, or without hand. It's considered more modern, more liberating. Livia delights in telling her friends that her husband has no legal control over her or her substantial dowry. And this is true. The legal authority over Livia remains with her father, even though she has not lived in his house for a decade. Her property is protected from her husband, but it is still not her own to command. It's a strange and complex web of ownership and obligation, a freedom that is merely a different flavor of dependence. You see these women powerful and intelligent, navigating a world that has been legally constructed to treat them as perpetual. Minors, then you reflect on your own state. You remember the day the Pontifex Maximus took your hand and said, te capio. In that single, transformative moment, you were severed from your father's potestas. You were not transferred to the hand of a husband, but to the service of a goddess. The profound and bizarre consequence of this act was your legal emancipation. You, Licinia, a virgin priestess, possess more legal autonomy than any of the powerful matrons you observe. You can own property outright. You can inherit a fortune and write a will to dispense with it as you see fit. You can engage in contracts and testify in court as a fully realized legal entity. It is the greatest, strangest irony of your life. To gain the legal status of a man, you had to agree to live as something other than a woman. This is a central debate that future minds will ponder. Who held the real power? You watch Cornelia subtly advise her senator husband, her social networking paving his path to a consulship. You see her wield immense informal power, her auctoritas, with a skill that could rival any politician. Her influence is undeniable, a quiet force that shapes dynasties from within the walls of her home. There is no denying her strength, but you recognize it as the power of the tide, immense but indirect, working through others. Your power, by contrast, is like a lightning strike. It is rare, highly constrained to your sacred duties, but it is yours alone. It is direct and absolute. When you walk through the forum, a lictor walks before you, clearing your path aright reserved for the highest magistrates. If you encounter a criminal being led to execution, you have the power to pardon him on the spot, no questions asked. Your word, in that moment, overrides the judgment of the courts. Cornelia can influence power. You, on rare occasions, embody it. It is a strange trade. She is free to raise children who will one day make decisions for the Republic. You are free to make a few specific earth-shattering decisions, but you must remain as biologically sterile as a child yourself. Not as the chariot's thunder around the track. You contemplate the two gilded cages. The matron's life is one of family, of earthly love, of creation, all lived within the inescapable confines of male legal authority. Her world is the home. Her purpose is the dynasty. Your life is one of public reverence, legal freedom, and sacred purpose, lived within the inescapable confines of the Atrium Vesta, and a vow of perpetual virginity. Your world is the temple. Your purpose is the soul of Rome. There is no path for a woman of your station that does not demand a sacrifice. Power, you realize, is never given freely in Rome. It is always purchased at a tremendous, life-altering price. The power of the Roman matron is the slow, persistent pressure of water, shaping stone over years. Your power is the sudden, shocking flash of lightning in a clear sky. It is rare, unpredictable, and absolute. It manifests in moments so strange and potent they feel like they belong to a dream. One day, you are traveling through the city in a carpentum, the covered carriage that is one of your privileges. The streets are thick with people, but they park respectfully as your lictor. The attendant granted to you by the Senate precedes you, his ceremonial staff clearing the way. This honor alone, a single lictor, puts you on a par with the city's ranking magistrates. It is a visible, public declaration of your status that suddenly, your carriage halts. Up ahead, a grim procession is forcing its way through the crowd. Guards are dragging a shackled man, his face bruised and his clothes torn. He is being taken to the Esquiline Hill for execution. By a complete accident of timing, his path to death has intersected with your path to a temple ceremony. The crowd falls silent, a wave of anticipation washing over them. The guards stop, their duty-bound momentum broken by the unexpected appearance of your sacred person. They look at you, waiting. The condemned man, seeing your white robes, falls to his knees, his face a mask of desperate, unbelieving hope. You don't need to say a word. The law is ancient and clear. If a person being led to execution happens to cross the path of a Vestal Virgin, and she attests that the meeting was accidental, his life is spared. You give a slow, deliberate nod to your lictor. He understands and relays the confirmation to the guards. It is done. The man's chains are removed. He is free. He weeps uncontrollably, trying to kiss the ground your carriage will pass over. You feel a strange sense of detachment, a profound unreality. You have just wielded the power of life and death, a power greater than that of the court which condemned him, simply by being in the right place at the right time. You, who cannot choose what you will eat for your evening meal, have just granted a man the rest of his days. The sheer, dizzying absurdity of it is something you can never quite get used to. This is the nature of your public authority. It is not earned through politics or wealth, but is an inherent quality of your office. Another time, you were called to a civil court to give evidence. A dispute had arisen over the authenticity of a will, one that had been entrusted to the temple for safekeeping 20 years prior. You remember entering the basilica, the proceedings halting as all eyes turned to you. The praetor, the chief magistrate, stood in deference. The lawyers for both sides fell silent. When it was time for you to speak, the magistrate's clerk approached the lawyer on the opposing side with the sacred altar, upon which he was to swear his oath to tell the truth. But when your turn came, the clerk simply stood back. The praetor inclined his head and said, "Please, tell the court what you know." This is a subtle, yet profound, curiosity of your station. You do not swear oaths. Your word is considered truth, in its purest form. To ask you to swear would be an insult to Vesta herself, for it would imply that one of her sacred priestesses is capable of deceit. The keepers of Rome's most profound secrets, like the Palladium, must be beyond reproach. Your honesty is assumed to be as absolute as the fire is eternal. This leads you to a question you often contemplate in the quiet of the atrium. Is this power yours, or does it belong only to the robes you wear? This is a debate that swirls around your very existence. Is it you, Licinia, who is sacred? Is there a quality within you that makes your word truth and your presence a source of pardon? Or are you merely a temporary vessel? If you were to be stripped of your office, would that power vanish, leaving you just a normal woman? You suspect the latter is true, and the thought is a humbling, unsettling one. It suggests that your identity is not your own, but is on loan from the state, from the goddess. You are a sacred mask, and the power resides in the mask, not in the face beneath dot. This power stands in stark, shocking contrast to the lives of all other Roman women. The matron from Section 10, for all her domestic authority, must persuade and influence from the shadows. She is the anchor of the ship, but she does not hold the tiller. You, on the other hand, are rarely allowed to interact with the world, but when you do, your touch can override its laws. Her power is social. Yours is theological. And in Rome, theology can be the most potent force of all. It elevates you, sets you on a pedestal for all to revere. But pedestals are small, lonely places. This unnatural authority marks you as something other than human, a divine tool, a sacred object that can walk and talk. It is a magnificent, terrifying, and deeply isolating power. So this is the truth of your life, the central, unwavering paradox of your existence. You are simultaneously the most liberated and the most imprisoned woman in the Roman world. You are a creature of immense power and of suffocating restriction, a revered public figure who lives in a state of profound and inescapable seclusion. Your life is a gilded cage, and you are never entirely sure if the gold is a reward or simply a more beautiful type of bar. Our 30-year term of service is designed as a complete life in miniature. The first decade, as you learned, was a replacement for childhood. While other girls were learning to manage a household, you were learning the arcane language of the gods. While they were playing with dolls, you were being entrusted with the very soul of the empire, the quiet, eternal flame. You sacrificed a family for a sacred function, exchanging the warmth of a personal hearth for the one that warmed an entire civilization. The second decade, your time as a keeper of the flame, is the heart of the paradox. This is when your power is at its zenith. You are the guardian of the Palladium, the keeper of secrets that could undo the world. You are the woman whose testimony is unshakable. Truth, whose chance encounter can grant a man his life. You are revered, untouchable, a living goddess walking the streets. And yet, in the same breath, you are a prisoner of ritual. Your every moment is dictated by a calendar of ancient duties. Your diet, your dress, your speech, all are subject to rules older than the Republic itself. You hold the fate of legions in the precision of your prayers, but you cannot walk to the market for a handful of olives. It is a life of cosmic significance and microscopic constraint that, in the third decade, you would have become a teacher, a magistra, guiding the new 10-year-old. Novices, seeing your own wide-eyed past reflected in their faces. You would have been a vessel of tradition, a living library of sacred lore. But it is a wisdom born of isolation, knowledge cultivated in a single hothouse environment. You can teach a girl how to please a goddess, but you know nothing of how. To soothe a crying baby, or manage a farm estate dot, and then comes the final, most curious part of the bargain, the freedom at the end. After 30 years of service, when you are a woman of 40, you are thanked by the state and released from your vows. You are free to leave the Atrium Vesta, to take your considerable wealth, and to marry. On the surface, it seems like the ultimate reward, a life of honor followed by a comfortable, conventional retirement, a return to the world. But this is the final, most subtle bar of the cage. You look at the few aged Vestals who have completed their service and chosen to remain. You understand why. How could you possibly re-enter that world? After 30 years of being a sacred object, of speaking with gods, of living by a divine clock, how do you learn to live as a mortal wife? To a potential husband, you would be a strange and intimidating creature, a woman who has communed with mysteries he cannot comprehend. It was even considered unlucky by many to marry a former Vestal. And so most, you realize, never leave. The cage door is thrown open, but the bird has forgotten how to fly in the ordinary sky. The freedom you are offered is one you are no longer equipped to embrace. So, was it a worthy sacrifice? This is the great, unanswerable question, the one that historians will debate and that you live every single day. Was this life of purpose, power, and privilege worth the cost? Worth the surrendered chance at love, family, and the simple, messy business of a normal life? Was it worth the constant, crushing pressure? The knowledge that a single misstep, a single malicious rumor, could lead you to a horrifying end in the dark earth? There is no simple answer. Your life was not a tragedy or a triumph. It was something far more complex, a sacred transaction. You were given immense spiritual authority, and in exchange, you offered your entire existence. You stood at the very center of Rome's conception of itself, a fixed point of purity in a chaotic world. You were the nail that held the wheel of empire to its axle. It is a life of profound meaning and profound loneliness, a constant, terrifying, and magnificent balancing act on the knife's edge of a single, fatal vow dot. And so, the story of Liciniia, the story of the Vestal, gently fades, like the last glow of embers in a cooling hearth. The weight of her secrets, the coldness of her trial, the paradox of her power, all of it now softens, dissolving into the quiet of your room. The journey was filled with shadows, with the heavy weight of responsibility. But that weight is not yours to carry. You are just a visitor, a silent observer, and now you can let it all drift away on the slow, easy river of your breathing. Feel the tension in your shoulders release. letting go of the ancient city and its heavy crown. Let the image of the silent, imposing forum dissolve into a soft, indistinct haze. There are no more trials to witness, no more secrets to keep. There is only this moment, this quiet, this perfect, gentle peace. Imagine yourself now, not in a stark atrium of marble, but in a soft, green meadow under a sky of deepening twilight. The air is warm and smells of chamomile and freshly cut grass. The sharp edges of the day have all been worn smooth. The only sound is the gentle, rhythmic hum of crickets, a soft, natural lullaby created just for you. You are safe here. You are comfortable. There are no vows to keep, no duties to perform. Your only task is to rest, to allow your body to grow heavy and your mind to become still. Each breath you take is a soft wave, washing away any lingering thoughts, leaving behind only a sense of deep and profound calm. The last light of the sun paints the clouds in soft hues of lavender and rose, a beautiful, fleeting masterpiece, just for you to see as you drift deeper and deeper into rest. This meadow is your own secret place, a sanctuary of tranquility where you are always welcome, always safe. The world and all its complexities can wait until morning. For now, there is only this gentle descent into a peaceful, restorative sleep. Your journey through history is over for the night. Now, your journey into dreams can begin. You've reached the end of another cozy nappy tale. Sleep well, and remember, you're always welcome here. Sweet dreams, nappy friend.